Death Valley is a desert valley in eastern California, in the northern Mojave Desert, bordering the Great Basin Desert. During summer, it is thought to be the hottest place on Earth. Death Valley is home to the Timbicha tribe of Native Americans, formerly known as the Panamint Shoshone, who have inhabited the valley for at least the past millennium. Death Valley's Badwater Basin is the point of lowest elevation in North America, at 282 feet, 86 meters, below sea level. It is 84.6 miles, 136.2 kilometers, east-southeast of Mount Whitney, the highest point in the contiguous United States, with an elevation of 14,505 feet, 4,421 meters. On the afternoon of July 10, 1913, the United States Weather Bureau recorded a high temperature of 134 degrees Fahrenheit, 56.7 degrees Celsius, at Furnace Creek in Death Valley, which stands as the highest ambient air temperature ever recorded on the surface of the Earth. This reading, however, and several others taken in that period are disputed by some modern experts. Lying mostly in Inyo County, California, near the border of California and Nevada, in the Great Basin, east of the Sierra Nevada mountains, Death Valley constitutes much of Death Valley National Park and is the principal feature of the Mojave and Colorado Deserts Biosphere Reserve. It runs from north to south between the Amargosa Range on the east and the Panamint Range on the west. The Grapevine Mountains and the Owl's Head Mountains form its northern and southern boundaries, respectively. It has an area of about 3,000 square miles, 7,800 square kilometers. The highest point in Death Valley National Park is Telescope Peak, in the Panamint Range, which has an elevation of 11,043 feet, 3,366 meters. Death Valley is a graben, a downdropped block of land between two mountain ranges. It lies at the southern end of a geological trough, Walker Lane, which runs north to Oregon. The valley is bisected by a right lateral strike-slip fault system, comprising the Death Valley Fault and the Furnace Creek Fault. The eastern end of the left lateral Garlock Fault intersects the Death Valley Fault. Furnace Creek and the Amargosa River flow through part of the valley and eventually disappear into the sands of the valley floor. Death Valley also contains salt pans. According to current geological consensus, at various times during the middle of the Pleistocene era, which ended roughly 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, an inland lake, Lake Manly, formed in Death Valley. The lake was nearly 100 miles, 160 kilometers, long and 600 feet, 180 meters, deep. The end basin in a chain of lakes that began with Mono Lake, in the north, and continued through basins down the Owens River Valley, through Searles and China Lakes and the Panamint Valley, to the immediate west. As the area turned to desert, the water evaporated, leaving an abundance of evaporitic salts, such as common sodium salts and borax, which were later exploited during the modern history of the region, primarily 1883 to 1907. The valley is extremely dry, because it lies in the rain shadow of four major mountain ranges, including the Sierra Nevada and Panamint Range. Moisture moving inland from the Pacific Ocean must pass eastward over the mountains to reach Death Valley. As air masses are forced upward by each range, they cool and moisture condenses, to fall as rain or snow on the western slopes. When the air masses reach Death Valley, most of the moisture in the air has already been lost and thus there is little left to fall as precipitation. The extreme heat of Death Valley is attributable to a confluence of geographic and topographic factors. Scientists have identified a number of key contributors. Solar heating. The valley's surface, consisting of soil, rocks, sand, etc., undergoes intense solar heating because the air is clear and dry, and the land is dark and sparsely vegetated. This is especially noticeable in midsummer, when the sun is nearly directly overhead. Trapping of warm air. Warm air naturally rises and cools. In Death Valley, this air is subject to continual reheating as it is trapped by high, steep valley walls and recycled back to the valley floor. Warm air also is trapped by the valley's north-south orientation, which runs perpendicular to prevailing west to east winds. Migration of warm air from other areas. Advection. Warm desert regions adjacent to Death Valley, especially to the south and east, often heat air before it arrives in Death Valley. Warm mountain winds. As winds are forced up and over mountains, for example the numerous ranges west of Death Valley, the winds can be warmed in several ways. The resulting dry, warm winds are known as fan winds. Their warmth can in part be caused by the release of latent heat, which occurs when water vapor condenses into clouds. Severe heat and dryness contribute to perpetual drought-like conditions in Death Valley and prevent much cloud formation from passing through the confines of the valley, where precipitation is often in the form of a virga. The depth and shape of Death Valley strongly influence its climate. The valley is a long, narrow basin that descends below sea level and is walled by high, steep mountain ranges. The clear, dry air and sparse plant cover allow sunlight to heat the desert surface. Summer nights provide little relief. Overnight lows may dip just into the 82 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 to 37 degrees Celsius, range. Moving masses of superheated air blow through the valley, creating extremely high ambient temperatures. On June 30, 2013, a verified temperature of 129.2 degrees Fahrenheit, 54.0 degrees Celsius, was recorded and is tied with Metriba, Kuwait, for the hottest reliably measured air temperature ever recorded on Earth. A temperature of 130 degrees Fahrenheit, 54.4 degrees Celsius, was recorded at the Furnace Creek Weather Station on August 16, 2020, but has not yet been officially verified. The valley again recorded that temperature on July 9, 2021. The valley's lowest temperature, recorded at Greenland Branch on January 2, 1913, was 15 degrees Fahrenheit, -9 degrees Celsius. The highest surface temperature ever recorded in Death Valley was 201.0 degrees Fahrenheit, 93.9 degrees Celsius, on July 15, 1972, at Furnace Creek, which is the highest ground surface temperature ever recorded on Earth, as well as the only recorded surface temperature of above 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 93.3 degrees Celsius. The greatest number of consecutive days with a maximum temperature of at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius, was 154, in the summer of 2001. The summer of 1996 had 40 days over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 49 degrees Celsius, and 105 days over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius. The summer of 1917 had 52 days when the temperature reached 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 49 degrees Celsius, or above, 43 of them consecutive. The highest overnight or low temperature recorded in Death Valley is 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius, recorded on July 5, 1918. 27, however, this value is disputed. A record high low of 107 degrees Fahrenheit, 42 degrees Celsius, on July 12, 2012, is considered reliable. 28, this is one of the highest values ever recorded. Also on July 12, 2012, the mean 24-hour temperature recorded at Death Valley was 117.5 degrees Fahrenheit, 47.5 degrees Celsius, which makes it the world's warmest 24-hour temperature on record. 4 major mountain ranges lie between Death Valley and the ocean, each one adding to an increasingly drier rain shadow effect, and in 1929, 1953, and 1989, no rain was recorded for the whole year. The period from 1931 to 1934 was the driest stretch on record, with only 0.64 inches, 16 millimeters, of rain over a 40-month period. The average annual precipitation in Death Valley is 2.36 inches, 60 millimeters, while the Greenland Ranch Station averaged 1.58 in, 40 millimeters. The wettest month on record is January 1995, when 2.59 inches, 66 millimeters, fell on Death Valley. The wettest period on record was mid-2004 to mid-2005, in which nearly 6 inches, 150 millimeters, of rain fell in total, leading to ephemeral lakes in the valley and the region and tremendous wildflower blooms. Snow with accumulation has only been recorded in January 1922, while scattered flakes have been recorded on other occasions. In spite of the overwhelming heat and sparse rainfall, Death Valley exhibits considerable biodiversity. Flowers, watered by snowmelt, carpet the desert floor each spring, continuing into June. Bighorn sheep, red-tailed hawks, and wild donkeys may be seen. Death Valley has over 600 springs and ponds. Salt Creek, a mile-long shallow depression in the center of the valley, supports Death Valley pupfish. These isolated pupfish populations are remnants of the wetter Pleistocene climate. Darwin Falls, on the western edge of Death Valley Monument, falls 100 feet, 30 meters, into a large pond surrounded by willows and cottonwood trees. Over 80 species of birds have been recorded around the pond. Efflorescence, also known as salt flowers, is a rare occurrence in Death Valley that occurs when rain soaks into the soil and dissolves salt beneath the surface, causing the ground to appear as if there is a light dusting of snow.